Patu Keswani, I wanted, sorry, yeah, hi, Patu. I wanted to talk a bit about two things that everyone has talked about here. One is Sanjay just referred to the owners and the actual owners of the properties. The other is this business of demand. We need to get demand going. We need to do something to reassure people. Let's move from that to the next question, which is how do you see demand growing? And how do you see supply being affected? Because if the industry is really in such dire straits, it seems reasonable that some properties will fall by the wayside, that people who are planning to build hotels may put those ideas on hold. So how do you see the demand supply match developing in the coming year or so?
Hi,
Okay, all right.
I hope you're all safe and healthy.
Yeah.
So, when I was listening to everybody here, I realized that there is one common element here, which is we as people. See, if you look at our business, nobody in their right mind would get into the hotel business. Okay. It's high capital intensive. You take debt. In India, you get short-term, high-cost debt. It is highly volatile in terms of demand. It has very high fixed costs, which is mostly people. And as I said, it is very volatile in demand. And we've just come out of 10 years of utter misery after the global financial crisis.
Yeah.
And then you get hit again like this. So the only answer, I think, is either we are all mad or we are really passionate about our business. And I think it's a combination of the two. So I just wanted to share this insight when I was listening to everybody. Now, talking very, very quickly, you see, I don't think we as hoteliers can depend on the government to help us. It's not like the US, where a friend of mine who owns a hotel called me yesterday and said 85% of the salaries was paid by the government. The Indian government is known to do too little, too late. And I think if we go with that premise, we can try our very best, but we should expect very little. Now, coming back to your questions, my broad perspective is, as human beings, the other day I was reading a book on psychology that we tend to remember and overreact to very negative stuff. And we live in that moment and we do not realize that life is a sine wave. Things go up, things come down. So I'm going to refer back to two incidents in one which is documented but not quantified, and the other which much worse than this. So let's talk about the 16th, in the 14th century and again in the 17th century. 1/3 of humanity was wiped out in the plagues that occurred. Coming to the latest, which was the Spanish flu 100 years ago, between spring 1918 and spring 1919, which was in fact during the World War, out of 1.5 billion people in the world, 500 million got the disease and 50 million died. I believe India itself had 10 million deaths. So if I put it in the current context, it would be as if 2.5 billion people in the world get the disease and 250 million die. So it's a question of scale and how we react. My personal view is that we have reacted to it because of the instant communication systems that we have. But what I would like to remind myself and everybody here is that humanity has always overcome. So with that perspective, I have a 3-year perspective, which is very clear in my mind. And this is what I think is going to happen. Firstly, for the first time in history, the whole world, every government, every pharma company, every laboratory is focusing on curing a single disease. So one can expect with technology, with the kind of technology and knowledge that we have, that there will be a cure, and that's therapeutic, and a vaccine within the next 2.5 years. Okay, so what we've got to ask ourselves is short term, which is the next 1 year, mid-term, which is the second year, and I expect, and I'm very confident, a very positive third year onwards. So the short term, what I see happen is the following. If you look at this disease today, it's a wave. So, we are all scared about mortality. So what are people scared of? if there are 1,000 people who are in the population, they will all get the disease with infectiousness. 200 go to 800 will be asymptomatic. I think Vikram spoke about that. They will be the young people. 200 will go to hospital, 100 will go to ICU, 50 will go to the ventilator, and 40 will die. 4% death rate. But that's an incorrect death rate because of the 1,000 that you know who have got it. There are 10,000 others who are in the forward wave who've gotten infected, but we don't know. So firstly, mortality is low, but unfortunately, people think it's very high. So what I think will happen is, till there is a cure, which is likely to happen in the next anywhere 6 to 12 months, because of this fear of death, there will be no travel or marginal travel. That's my perspective. So there will be utter demand destruction, at least till the end of this calendar year. So what do we need to do till then? Just two things. And actually, it's a positive, the way I see it is. One is drop your costs. And at least in our system, in our company, we've said, whatever happens, we will do two things. One is we will not lay off our associates, but we will take massive salary cuts at leader level in order to ensure that we don't have to lay off anybody. And the second is we will make payments to the small vendors. And I'll come back to why I am saying this. Timely payment to the MSME vendors to our group. I think this is an opportunity for us to redefine ratios. I was looking at two of our hotels, one in Hyderabad and in another city, where in Bangalore, where we were doing 90% occupancy. And I discovered that we are running those hotels with 40% of the sanctioned staff. Now, this was an amazing thing. What is sanctioned staff? We all define sanctioned staff. But how do we define it? We found that in a 270-room hotel, we used to have 5 receptionists. Today, we are running it with 2. Okay, obviously, check-ins and check-outs are very few. But the point is we need to review our entire ratios, because I think this is an opportunity for us to restaff at an optimum level and use this crisis to discover that optimum level. What do I see happening in 6 to 9 months to 12 months is a cure. Definitely there will be a cure which will reduce mortality. And among the 3 segments that consume hotel rooms in India, the domestic travel will start. My only concern is that flights should not be so constrained or destroyed, airlines destroyed, or social distancing being put in place where the cost per seat is so high that it will preclude travel. So first 1 year, I see destruction of demand. Second year, I see revival of domestic demand to a small extent. But worryingly, I see that if you don't have a liquidity cushion, a lot of demand will get destroyed, which means hotels will shut down. I don't know if they will change hands, but some hotels will shut down because of lack of support from the government. And this will lead to long-term supply destruction. In the next 2.5 years, I am certain that a vaccine for the virus will come. Think of it for a minute, everybody, that this virus is 2 months old as far as the world is concerned. It really started in mid-March and it is now mid-May. In 2 months, look at the level of research, attention, and whatnot that is being given to this virus and a cure for it. Never before in history. So my view is that in 2 to 2.5 years, a vaccine will come. It will take 6 months to produce on a massive scale worldwide. We should be proud that the Serum Institute in Pune alone produces 1.5 billion vaccines a year. So there is no reason why we can't ramp up on a global scale to produce. And what I see happening is that 3 years from now, and I'm going to completely disagree with everybody here, once the world is vaccinated, it means 95% immunity. I'm predicting, okay, and you can hold me to it, social distancing will go out of the window. We will revert to norm, just like what happened in 1921 after the Spanish flu. Okay, we will revert to norm and everything will come back. But in the process, we must learn to retain those cost ratios that we've got, and use them successfully to be more efficient. My broader concern is actually not linked to the hotel industry. It is linked to contraction of supply across India. Because so many industries, especially the small, medium industries, due to lack of liquidity will die, that it will lead to a lot of unemployment, which will be leading to social unrest. And my second concern is that if vital elements of India's economy, supply chain, are permanently destroyed, then there is no question in my mind that the Indian economy will contract for at least the next 4 to 5 years. So that is the bigger fear. Not that we will come back, but that demand will get affected by the death of multiple small industries. That's my view.
It's not, it's pessimistic in the long run, but optimistic in terms of the world coming back to normal. Is that fair?
Veer, I was talking to Brookfield. The guys called me from New York. And here's the perspective.
Okay.
Brookfield, as you know, is one of the world's largest asset owners, real estate owners. So this guy is telling me, he's an Indian based in New York, that there are 12, I'm just giving an example. There are 1,250 malls in the United States and 55 in India. Okay. So he said, we don't even consider India, we don't even look at India. Let me tell you what we're looking at in the US. The 1,250 malls, most of them are in clusters just outside cities. So they are, people are encouraged to drive there and, like what happens in India too. He feels that because of contraction of demand, 60% of these malls will shut down in the next 2 years, which means from 1,250, it will drop to 500 malls.
Right.
He says in the next 2 years, demand will come back to 50% of what it was pre-COVID, which means the demand that would have fed 625 malls will now be fed by 500. So actually, footfalls of the surviving malls will go up. And then 2 years later, demand will come back to normal. And social distancing too will disappear. And therefore, any mall that survives will be enormously successful. Now, I'm not drawing a parallel between India and America, but I generally feel, and I do believe, that there will be significant demand, supply destruction in India. Okay? And the surviving hotels will benefit with, even if there is a contraction in demand due to a contraction in economy, surviving hotels will go back to normal. So I'm willing to actually bet on that. Jyotsna, you and I can have a deal.
Okay. So you're basically saying survival of the fittest and then prosperity for the fittest.
Yeah, but I wish that, it's not fair to people who have had a view and been completely, caught flat-footed by this black swan. So I think it's important for the government to keep everybody alive. That I really believe. And I think
which they won't do, no? But which we are all agreed they won't do. If they can't even step in now, why would they step in later?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let me take this to Priya Paul, the one person who hasn't spoken at all. Priya,
Thank you.
A lot of people are talking about a younger demographic. Vikram started that. A younger demographic is generally much less a threat than people seem to realize. Even those who get it are asymptomatic. They don't seem affected. One reason why we have low mortality rates in India is the demographic effect. 65% of our population is under 30. If you look at deaths in the US, in the UK, for instance, over half the deaths are people in care homes. In Italy, it tends to be older people. We, for better or for worse, have fewer older people and lots of young people. And as Vikram said, these are the younger people who power the economy, who power the demand. You, more than anybody else, has understood these people because all of your hotels over the last 15, 20 years have been ahead of their time. They've been hipper. They've appealed to younger people. So what do you make of this view that the people who power the new kind of hotel will on the whole be okay, and your kind of hotel will be okay, and perhaps the industry as a whole will eventually be okay?
Thanks, Vir, and thanks, Bhuvnesh, for inviting me on this panel. There's lots of food for thought on this.
Yeah.
So while Our hotels are youthful, I would say. I mean, our customers are of all age types, because what we really deliver is food and beverages and entertainment as a customer value proposition, so which is quite unique. And it's really that entertainment that drives a lot of the venues and spaces, and that's where we actually are plugged into what is happening in the more youthful market. So I think it goes back to, people are social people. And whether they're wanting to dine out or hang out with people or meet friends and family or go to clubs and bars, that's very much part of our experience of a modern city, or of a person who's anybody from 18 to, let's say, 45, 50. Okay, that's what I define as young. I'm no longer in that group. But so what do they want? I mean, people want to socialize. If you see pictures from all over the world, from London, New York, all the European cities, people are out back in bars, back in restaurants, some with dividers, mostly without masks. And some of those pictures for us sitting in India is like appalling, because if you go out on the street in India, everybody, rich or poor, laborer, anybody is wearing a mask. So I think that's brilliant, first of all, in India. But the rest of the world, that's not what's happening. So, but they're immediately out there. I mean, the first, if you survey any of us, or if you survey 100 people, the first thing they want to do is to go and meet their friends and family. Probably friends first, family second, I don't know, depends. Okay, so what are we as hotel spaces? We are also venues for these events and live bands and music and things like that. So my feeling is that we'll come back quite fast. I mean, in our all that business online, and it's quite amazing that you can have that reach. I mean, we've reached about 400,000 people who we would, and there are people that we would have not reached otherwise if we had not used technology, whether it's Zoom or Facebook Live or other ways of getting bands and performers into your living room. And the young kids are putting it on and doing a watch party and getting all their friends to participate and be in that same experience. So entertainment and food is all about being immersive. I mean, the cooking programs will show you that. So that's one thing on the food and entertainment. And I think with technology, there are many hybrid ways for anybody who's in the entertainment or music business to actually look at a physical space for your band performance, and then a non-physical space, which is like a worldwide global audience, to do that. So there are very exciting things happening there, and which I know we're doing. On the food side, of course, the big boom has been hotels, and particularly the five-star hotels, looking at food delivery as a revenue stream. Not always easy to do, because our kitchens in hotels are not geared to doing, let's say, kind of airline quality and that scalable kind of quality. We're better suited as doing smaller orders and maybe 50 orders a day. But if for any of us to scale up, we need to do about 500 meals, 1,000 meals a day. So that's some of the business that I know that we are, and other hospitality companies are doing that, because we're going to have spare capacity. So there's no reason why some kitchens can't be converted to look at this market. If you have 5 restaurants, I don't think for the next year that anyone can really run all 5. It would be foolish maybe in some ways. And again, if you have a higher APC, you could do a combination of a sit-in with 50% occupancy, which I hope goes very fast. And you have a combination of a takeout service, which brings the restaurant experience to people's homes. But we're talking at a higher price level for a lot of the hotel companies that are on this panel. I think in terms of looking forward, it's also when entertainment is not allowed and banquet business is going to be curtailed to maybe 50 people, or I don't know exactly what the numbers will be. How do you then take your restaurant and hotel experience into people's homes in a more intimate manner? So is it that we do more 20 people dinners and 40 people dinners, and the chef goes in there and your bartenders, and you take your whole bar experience in there? So, but again, you have to look at the price points, how much of value is it going to give, because the cost of really doing some of those things is can be just not effective, cost effective for any of us. The other trend, and Nakul talked about it, and somebody else did also, is really about health, wellness, and sustainability. Not just in the travel process, I mean, but actually in the food part of it. So where is our food coming from? Where is our meat coming in from? Where are the chickens coming from? People are concerned about that. And that's going to be the next level of, there are many organic and other producers in the country, but how do they bring that to scale so that they can supply to hotels in scale, hotels and restaurants? There are many people, but they don't have enough of scale. So if I want to do an entire hotel that only has organic food, but it's a 200-room hotel with banqueting, I have not been able to find people to fulfill that need. It's just not enough. I've just done one restaurant, and that's a good experiment. The trend then is more veganism, vegetarian food, people looking at, of course, the hygiene and safety is always going to be there. And, then when we get back into business, how do we then marry? I mean, if it's a 2 to 3 year time period before demand comes back, and of course, with all the constraints that we may have at different levels of how many numbers we can do in a buffet, can we have a buffet ever? In a breakfast situation? Yeah. If you have a 200-room hotel, how do you service all those people in a quick manner? Because if you're going to try and serve each person with that slow thing, the breakfast is going to last for 4 hours. So, or are you doing a different hybrid model of delivering food, in a little kind of bags to people's individual rooms? So there are lots of I think, ways that we will need to respond to all these scenarios that will come up. I mean, is it going to take 1 year to get back to normal, or is it going to take 2 years? I think in many of our hotels, we've already seen travel already happening. We're dealing with the way the hygiene SOPs, sanitation, how we're delivering food, how we're dealing with kind of a seamless and contactless experience, not just in the check-in and check-out, but also in the food and beverage side. So we've already experimented, I think, over the past 2 months, many of us, and I think pretty much ready to go live. I guess from next week when we get the go ahead, and I know all our teams are waiting to do that. But I think it's a really evolving situation as far as food and beverages go. But my fundamental kind of view is that people are social. People want to meet each other. We are the right place for people to meet there with the safety, hygiene, security, and high quality. And we can guarantee that with a lot of the methods that we're doing. And I think people will be back very soon.
Really? Okay. Let me take the sustainability thing to Nakul. Priya's made a good point about sustainability and the need to source it and all of that. But in a way, it sort of links back to what you've been doing, Nakul, over the last decade. Sustainability has been pretty much your key word. So you think, in a sense, you were on the right track?
When ITC, I think many years back, and adopted the triple bottom line approach. And I think the challenge was when we came to rebranding our hotels, and when we went from Sheraton and we went to Luxury Collection, and we were creating a whole lot of more luxury hotels, etc. I think the choice was at that point or the other that are we going to be green or are we going to be luxury? It was believed at that time that the two can't go together. That to be a green hotel, you had to switch off the power, you had to throttle the water pressure, you don't change the bed sheets in 48 hours and so on and so forth, etc. I think that's where it really occurred to us, and we said that no, we don't have a choice of and/or, and we will do both together. We will be sustainable and we will be luxury, and therefore we began with ITC Gardenia, where we said that how can we make this the world's second platinum-rated hotel, and yet it got possibly every accolade for being a great hotel, etc., hotel of the year, and so on and so forth, etc. And that's where the thought of responsible luxury sort of came forward, and then we took it to all our hotels. I certainly believe that it's a way forward, and we could have been ahead of our times, but the current times show that people are more and more, and people have had time to reflect, people have spent more time on the electronic media or social media, and are more educated on this. And I believe that, and more than anything else, I think that people have begun to realize, and I think COVID has taught us that that nature doesn't recognize the artificial borders that human beings set around their countries, right? It doesn't recognize these borders, and anything can be global, right? And so is sustainability. The impact of one country can be an impact on the other. So these are going to be global movements, etc. And I'm glad Priya raised the point. We are seeing a similar thing in sustainability, in food, farm to fork. We've done some work, and you're aware of some of the work we've done on local love, on reducing the footprint of purchase, on our Choose Wisely program, on fish that are overfished, and so on and so forth.
Nakul, I'm going to ask everyone a last question. So let me start with you. There seems to be a consensus on this panel that the hotel industry is in for a rough ride for a year or maybe 2 years. After that, that's where the divergence is. Once those rough 2 years are over, will the nature of hotels have changed forever with social distancing and obsession with hygiene, no touching, etc.? Or will it be back to life as normal? Where do you stand?
No, I think it will be back to normal. I think that it will be a change word, and some of the points that I covered earlier, you would have to carry with you a passport or a validation to say that you have been vaccinated and so on and so forth, etc. So some of the really, if you look at the 2 period BC, which is, to use your term, before Corona, BC and AC, right? I think some of the things that will carry on, which are even now during the Corona period, but of course a lot of them will die. I take Priya's point that we are socially wired, socialization will come back, etc. But I think that an important point that Patu made was that regrettably, the supply will be disrupted, right? And demand will come back, right? There will be new opportunities. India has got lots of great opportunities. If you look at what India can offer in terms of the changing world order, Ayurveda, medical tourism, yoga, some of the great things that we have, etc. And this is what the world is going to look at. Buddhist tourism. I mean, we have 4 out of the 5 Buddhist monuments in this country, less than 1% of Buddhicity. If we really take this time and as I said, look at the telescope and create together a market plan of what products are we going to offer in which markets, not necessarily long haul markets. We've got $400 billion worth of travel in East Asia, minus China. Even if we can take 10% of that, we can double our foreign exchange journey. So I think there are some great opportunities. Regrettably, yes, the supply will go down, will get disrupted, but demand will certainly bounce back. But from different markets for different products.
Okay. Jyoti, where do you stand? Do you sort of agree with the view that the hotel industry has changed forever, or Nakul's view, which is that there will be modifications after 2 years when things return to some semblance of normal, but basically this is a phase. Hospitality, warmth, etc. will continue, and social distancing, etc. will be forgotten.
Well, I hope it does happen that way because, like I said, we are a people-centric industry. It's all about service. It's all about that warmth. So I do hope that that comes back. But I think what is going to be good with this, and a lot of our panelists have spoken about it, we'll have cleaned up ourselves on several levels. Trimmed away the fat. We will have more multi-skilling, more multitasking. The definition of luxury will change. We will become more responsible. We will be more sustainable. So I think at the end of it, it's going to be actually a great learning experience for us, and we are going to come out better than what we were. So that element, I think we all need to take advantage of this time and try and see how best we can adapt to this particular situation. But at the end of it, we do want to have that smile, that warmth, and we do want to be able to look after people and make them feel happy and comfortable. It's not social distancing. We can never be socially distant. It's just that physical distancing, which will last for a while. It cannot last for a long time. It's impossible. We cannot take away the hug from each other. We can't. So a point will come when all of us will have gone through all of this and then come out as winners. So I vote for the human touch back again.
Okay, all right. Mr. Kachru, you've seen crises come and go. Do you agree with the view of Nakul and Jyoti, I think, which is that things will return normal even if it takes 2 years?
I would go in with what Patu has indicated. I think we have weathered many storms and for hundreds of years, and in the recent past also. I think we will get over this and we'll be very close to, we may not be 100% to what we were pre-COVID, but I can tell you we'll be very, very close to this in 18 to 24 months. Anyway, that's my belief. But I think having said that, we have to move on. We cannot go on expecting things to happen. Padhu spoke about various good points on restructuring ourselves to meet these current challenges. But I think we have to look for new possibilities. And one of the key possibilities I would certainly want to talk about is domestic tourism.
Sure.
I think that's the next big thing, as Nakul also said to start with, and almost all panelists agreed that there is a huge, huge market, both at center and states. They have to take it seriously because contours of domestic tourism are slightly different and they need to be examined in a proper manner. I think new protocols need to be established, and I'll come back to validation of safety. Vikram indicated that they had done an internal survey and only 42% people felt that they would come back and stay. I mean, that's the confidence. We have to actually improve the trust level, improve the confidence level of our people who will visit us. Back to the government, what we expect if we are going to focus on domestic tourism, I think some of the infrastructural changes and giving us the right status. I personally feel unless they do something about changing the status of hospitality industry, hotel industry to either industry or infrastructure, things will not happen. I was talking amongst some of our colleagues the other day, hey, what do we need to do for domestic tourism? Everybody's talking about that it'll help us in the short run and there would be great growth. But in order to do that, we have to look at very minute things, creating like wayside facilities. If we don't have wayside facilities, don't expect people to drive. And the first point of growing tourism would be a drivable distance. Everybody here is pent up, they are at home, they want to go out, and they just want to sit in the car and drive 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours. But unless there are proper wayside facilities, it's not going to happen. And I feel that all of us have to take ownership for this. Tourism has to be a national priority. I feel all of us, the entire leadership of the industry and the government has to make it as a national priority. We can't live in that world. I remember a legend in the Sharma, whenever we used to meet him on different forums, he used to say, he's always reminded of who's minding the store. Old Hollywood movie. He said, the buck must stop somewhere. If tourism, civil aviation, they don't work together, I think we have an issue, and I think we all should work towards it. I think that's the way forward from my point of view.
Thank you, sir. Sanjay, do you think, as most people here seem to believe, that we will have to make many adjustments and changes for a year, 2 years, including physical distancing, etc. But eventually, in 2 years, things will be back to normal, and many of the old concepts of hospitality, refined, of course, will be back?
Thank you, Vir. I think comeback, I would say it would progress to a new level where the awareness would be much more. Our customers would be much more aware. So would our owners with the experience of now. What can be done? How can efficiencies be brought in? So they would be aware of that. It would require much more innovations. And there would be a lot of work required on experiences which we can provide, whether it is well-being, whether it is care. But if we can deliver our promise with the purpose of care, I think it would be back, and it would be back like how. But we need to
Neeraj, what's your perspective? Is the hotel industry going to change forever in the 2 years? It'll be out of action, or will it come back pretty much as it used to be in the pre-COVID era with new refinements and sophistications?
I'm going to try and be Nostradamus here. I think this is all getting into the realms of speculation now. But reality is the way I see it. I think from a customer behavior standpoint and our delivery standpoint, we're quick to forget, and as things get better, people will sort of gravitate towards what they like to do, right? So I think broadly, I agree that we'll sort of move back to where we were the moment there is a cure or a vaccine that comes out for this. Having said that, some elements will stay. We saw that with 9/11. We saw that with what happened with the Mumbai attack. Some elements will sort of infuse themselves into our day-to-day operation and customer expectations. What I do believe will change significantly is the approach to hoteliering from here on. I do think that there will be a significant change in our supply chains. I do believe there'll be change to how hotels are designed. I think Nakul alluded to that right at the beginning of this. And I do believe that there'll be several aspects on how operators go about approaching the business from a cost standpoint and a restructuring standpoint that will continue to play out into the future, into a much longer term window. I'll say in short that if we don't learn from this, it's a wasted opportunity at the end of the day. I think the thing from this is we've got to make sure that we emerge leaner and wiser from the wear of this. And I think that's where I would say as hoteliers, this is a fantastic opportunity in many ways for us to learn and hit the reset button.
Okay. Priya, what do we see 2 years from now when the hotel industry presumably is back on its feet? Has the nature of hoteliering changed forever? Or will we go back to the pre-COVID era with maybe a few new systems and maybe a few new learnings?
I think it's a combination of all those. And
Okay.
I think, and I agree with what Neeraj was saying, this is the time to actually look at your organization, reset it, reorganize. I think we've all had maybe 2 months to really do that and quite a deep dive into why we have certain costs, what do we want to do, and possibly reinvent our businesses going forward. So it's in one sense for that time we've had to ideate is really, really valuable. And we're still not out of the woods as yet. I think it will be generally in the economy a 2-year plus struggle. And it's obviously the hospitality industry is going to lag behind or lag with that. Whether there's a supply-demand mismatch, that might actually be to the ones who are the fittest and survive. That might be to our advantage 3 years hence in terms of rates maybe firming up and being better, because certainly there'll be a lot less supply. So that may be to our benefit. But I think the opportunity is to reset, reorganize, and move ahead and absorbing some of the lessons that we've learned and some of the new kind of hygiene factors that we have to have. I do not think, personally, that this is the last virus epidemic that we're going to see. And possibly that's something that we should be preparing for what happens 5 years from now. So a bit of both.
Okay. Patu,
Thanks.
It was your question really, so I'll frame it back to you, which is that there seems to be broad agreement, as you said, that we will see a leaner, perhaps more refined hotel industry at the end of 2 years. But the basic idea of warmth, hospitality, no necessary physical distancing, all that will go and people will be back to normal. Is that still your view?
Yeah, broadly it's that, but I'd like to come back to just one broad point. You see, we've definitely been a very fragmented industry, and we do crazy stuff. For example, if I'm competing with somebody for some business, okay, and that business belongs to that person, I'll go and drop the price in order to shift it. And ultimately that person will retain it and have to drop the price to match the lower price offered. So we do these suicidal things all the time, okay, as an industry. I think there should be more. I think one I would urge everybody to think of is rationality in the cost structures that we impose. Now, we are both owners of hotels and managers of hotels. I'll give you a simple example. We took a few steps. For many years, I used to complain in my system that why is our food cost at 36%? In the last 2 months, our food cost is 21%. How we achieved it was very interesting. Okay, I'm not getting into that specifically, but what I'm saying is, what I found interesting was that in crises like this, customer habits change, and those changes and habits can be driven by us. I'll give you an example. Why can't we make smaller buffets? Buffets will come back. I can guarantee you, whether it's 2 years or 3 years. Why do we have to have 200 items in a buffet? Why can't we, as all branded hotels in India, offer a wholesome buffet but not go crazy on the variety? See, once we start things like that, it becomes a vicious cycle. So buffet is one. Second example, a very interesting example. Our customers, today our air conditioning is on at 26 degrees centigrade. Normally it was at 20. Okay. Customers come, they say, why is it so warm? So we, of course, very glibly say, and it is true actually, that it is recommended by the government. In some state governments, they've said, if you have air conditioning, it should be at a minimum temperature of 26. As a standard, why don't we offer 22 degrees? I mean, the savings are so enormous for owners, whether it's a management company or actually an owning company. These learnings we must not remove is my bigger point. Things will come back to normal. Even in Spanish flu, people go mask, social distancing, all that disappeared in 3 years. So let's take these learnings and not reimpose those costs on our system for the mutual benefit of the whole hotel industry. So that's my broad perspective. Besides, of course, I agree with what the others have said.
Okay. So we have a broad consensus. Let me go to Vikram Oberoi. Vikram, you've heard what everyone has said, and I won't ask you the same question I've asked them all. Rather, I'll ask you to do something else. Tell me how you feel about the future. You're the inheritor, the next generation, the guy who's going to be the leading hotelier in India. How do you see the future of the hotel industry, of which you are the leader?
Well, I think everybody's, Patu and all the other panelists have talked about a optimistic future in a couple of years, whether that's 2 years or 18 months or 2.5 years. And I would support that point of view as well. I just think the 2 points that I'd like to make, or 3 points. The first one is, if we do things for a certain amount of time, it becomes habitual. And although I don't believe social distancing or safe distancing will be one of those, because I think as human beings, it's something that we'll find difficult to accept unless there's a pressing requirement. So I agree that safe distancing, once there's an effective treatment for COVID, will go away. But I think talking, that technology, I think technology will, in the next couple of months or next 18 months to 2 years, play a very important part in our business. And I think that's something that will continue. I also feel that when we are in a situation of difficulty and stress, we're much more likely to not be confined by boundaries. And therefore, I think we will be more innovative. And I think hopefully innovation may be something that will also continue. And that could be in the way we look at service. It could be multi-skilling. It could be with design of hotels. But I think that there will be a greater level of innovation as well. So really 2 things, technology and innovation. I think we will still like to be close to each other. And just one
sorry, go on.
I just add is, I really struggle with the fact that it needs to be one or the other. When it comes to, how do we make our guests and our colleagues feel special, even if we're wearing a face mask or a face shield and you can't see the person's smile? And I think, again, we need to innovate and I'm sure we've already done it, that, so that we are as welcoming as hotels that we were before COVID, and that hasn't changed. We're just doing it from a slight distance, and we look a little bit different in terms of what we're wearing. but we have to still make guests feel that they're coming to a special place, something that they're comfortable with, that they're made to feel welcome and cared for deeply. And now I'd say cared for more deeply, more than ever before. Not only when it comes to safety and hygiene, that's, I think that's a bare necessity, and we all need to do that. But also going beyond that.
Thank you, Vikram. That really sums it up beautifully. Thank you, all of you. Before I hand it back to Bhuvanesh, a couple of things I'd wanted to talk about, which we didn't. One was relationships between managing companies and owners in difficult times. The other was domestic tourism, with Mr. Kachru alluded to. And the big one, the future of hotel restaurants in the era of space distancing or physical distancing or whatever you want to call it. Perhaps we'll get you all back and do another one. Thank you so much. I think I've learned more about that. Sorry, what?
There are going to be one or two questions. Rakhi Lalwani is itching to ask a question. I think we should take one from her and one from Mr. Vivek Nair, who's holding on.
All right, sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks.
Hi, Rakhi,
whatever you couldn't ask Puneet, you can ask us. We'll tell you.
Yeah.
You, Rakhi?
Do you feel that the Indian hospitality industry will lose its differentiator and competitive advantage because of all this low-touch business that we have to get into? Because our biggest advantage was the human touch and the warmth that we're all known for. Do you think this will be a deterrent of sorts? And the second one was to Vir. Did we reach a consensus in terms of when will the industry get back to pre-COVID levels?
Okay, I'll get Jyoti to answer the first part of your question. I'll answer the second one very quickly. I think the consensus here is that there will be a vaccine within a year or 12 months. There's some dispute about how long it'll take for that vaccine to reach everybody and how long it'll take for immunity to spread throughout society. The outside limit appears to be 2 years. Jyoti, answer to her question. All this, will we lose our distinguishing factor, the warmth of Indian hospitality?
Well, in the first place, I think international travel is going to take a very long time to happen. We are going to be focusing on domestic tourism, and therefore the international travel that we are looking for, where we may have a lack of an advantage, it's going to take a very long time. Ultimately, we will get back that smile. That's what we're all hoping for. And we are hoping that at the end of 2 years or a year and a half, we will get back to the Indian traditional hospitality. But there's something about the Indian hospitality which goes beyond that. There is an innate hospitality that exists in all of us, and that cannot be taken away. So I don't see us losing on any of that going forward.
That's great to hear. I think it's going to be a balance between, health and warmth, and I really hope we retain both. Yeah,
we will.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Nair.
Yes, for some reason I can't see the video, but can you hear me?
Yes, we can see.
Not only that, we can see you also.
We can see half of your face. So, go ahead.
Let me adjust this accordingly.
Oh, there you are.
Okay. Well, nobody mentioned about the relief we got from the RBI governor today. He's extended by 3 more months the moratorium on term loans, which all of us were scared that that would not be done and that we had to meet the RBI governor, etc. So that's good news. And then, I don't know whether you're aware that the government, in fact, FM in our last press conference said that they've increased the limit of micro and small medium enterprises. And if you read the small print in the, if you zoom MSME, you'll find that service industry is also included now. And I went through it, and the good news is that the medium enterprises who have investment up to 5 crores and a turnover up to 100 crores could avail of this. Now, 100 crores would definitely cover 1, 2, 3, or even some 4-star properties. And of course, restaurants almost the entire gamut of restaurants in the country would be covered. So that's great news. So I try to figure out how do you become a member? How do you enlist? And the form is given in the MSME portal. And the great advantage is that if you're having working capital limit with your bank, MSMEs are able to get extra funding from the bank without any additional collateral, which is indeed a big thing. And at rates of interest at 9.25 to 12%, depending on your
rating. Time, can we keep the question short, sir?
No, I'm not asking a question. I'm informing you something which you all don't seem to know.
I think we all know it was only a breather, if I may say so, and it's a good breather, and we acknowledge and thank them for that.
Vivek,
but there's a lot more. There's a lot more that needs to be done.
Yeah. So Vivek, before I started, I did say that the RBI governor has given us an extension of the 3-month moratorium, but I also said that it's not enough, and we need a minimum of 1 year. So we acknowledge that, Vivek, and maybe you didn't hear that.
I didn't hear that.
Okay, Mrs. Suri and Mrs. Paul, Dr. Suri and Mrs. Paul, we want you to, Priya, we want you to launch our digital issue. This is dedicated to all the women in the Indian hospitality industry. You'll see the silver wings, right? So,
yes.
Right. So I have a daughter, a mother, a sister, right, a wife. So I think we need to empower the women of our industry, and this issue is dedicated to all of you. So I'd want you to bless it. Mrs. Suri, you're writing in this. So this is, would you want to say a couple of words very briefly?
Should I go first or should Priya go first?
Yeah, Jyotsna, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I heartiest congratulations, and for this that you are just launching. We are happy to be associated with it. And yes, women hoteliers are not many. There are not many women hoteliers, and I hope that there will be many, many more women hoteliers that come up in the front. It's generally a male domain, and Priya and myself feel, we don't feel outnumbered ever. In fact, I think we get all the gentlemen to feel a little bit more cautious when we are around. But really, I think the opportunity for more women hoteliers to come up in the front is something that I'm hoping for, and heartiest congratulations to you. Over to you, Priya.
Thanks, Jyotsna. Thanks, Bhuvanesh. I'm actually delighted that you're doing a cover on women in hospitality. And it's not just at Women's Day, because I think we need to celebrate the women who are in the industry, not just on Women's Day and that tokenism. And I hope you'll keep on celebrating by covering more outstanding women at all levels of the organization. And I think one of the things that, also this work from home might have taught us is that how we can actually include more women in the workforce in hospitality by looking at more innovative ways of work, given the fact that they have to really bear the childbearing and the homework and all that so much more intensely. So I hope some of those issues are in this issue of yours. I look forward to reading it, and all the best.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Suri and Priya. Tomorrow we are doing a live show with Chef Ranveer Barar at 3 p.m. So it's called F&B Chutzpah, Dead or Still Alive. So he's going to be giving us a lot of nuggets on the F&B, which is again suffering like hospitality, travel and tourism has. And the other announcement, which wasn't planned, Vir, is everybody has looked forward to the BW HOTELIER, which is the Indian Hospitality Summit Awards. It would have been the 5th year. If we can't do it physically, we are going online and doing the awards online. But we will not let go the years. We cannot go without celebrating hospitality and hoteliers. They've all waited. I've been getting a lot of mails. When is it going to happen? Unfortunately, the dates coincide. Do we close?
I think so.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. I'll start with Mr. Nakul Anand. Mr. Anand, thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure to catch up with industry colleagues. Some of them I haven't seen for a while, and with all of you. And thank you for putting us all together. It gives us, we take away a lot of thoughts and lots of food for thought with us. Thank you so much.
Grateful, sir. Mr. Kachru?
The entire fraternity, and the reset button actually is on now. And it was wonderful to be amongst friends today. Thank you.
Patu?
At 2 minutes.
Hi, Patu.
Hi. Great as always. We're all friends. We enjoyed chatting and stimulating each other intellectually on possibilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Patu. Dr. Suri?
Thank you, Bhuvnesh. I haven't seen Vir for ages. It was really good to see you. I just want to say one thing that, on a positive note, COVID has really united the hospitality industry. We have all come together. We've never interacted so much with each other as we have in the last 2 months. And I hope that this continues. So thank you very much.
Priya?
Thanks, Bhuvnesh, and thanks, Vir. That was great. I think there was almost too much. I mean, there's a lot more that we need to talk about, and there's a lot more that we could have talked about. But I hope we do that in another forum. Thank you so much for organizing this, and hopefully
we'll be doing more of these. Yeah. There are about 10 of them lined up, so look forward. Vikram?
Thank you.
Thank you. Vikram, you're unmute. Yeah.
Bhuvnesh, well, first of all, thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank Vir, please.
And I will thank Vir, of course. Vir, I have many things to thank for. So thank you, Vir. And our fellow hoteliers who participated in this panel. And last of all, I believe, I don't know what the final numbers of people who saw this discussion, but I thank them.
Let me tell you, we've had close to 15,000 viewerships between online, 15,000 viewerships between online, Facebook, and Zoom limits us. So Zoom. So I'm going to share the screenshots with you. So that's the kind of reach that we've had.
Well, I think that also speaks for our industry. People in our business are really passionate about what we do. We're passionate about our guests, and we're passionate about our colleagues in our business.
Thank you, Vir. Thank you, Bhuvnesh. I think it was great to be in this panel and exchange thoughts. And we really hope to reunite together with our customers soon. And also, I think the overwhelming support which the panelists got from the audience, the numbers speak for itself. So thank you very much.
Vir, I think you did a fabulous job as always moderating this. It was great to chat with everyone. I personally enjoyed every minute of it. And I hope the audience found it to be beneficial and fruitful as well. But thank you, everyone. It's been great seeing so many of you on the screen here. I know we are little pocket stamps on a device, but it's wonderful to see each and every one of you. Thank you, and stay well, and hope to see you all in person very, very soon.
Thank you again. Any words, last words, please?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
everyone.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Stay safe, stay well, and
stay healthy.
Thank you, everybody.